call that an exergonic reaction, remember from chapter 2. And then it's reformed by when you have energy from your food. After the food's been broken down, energy is also released. That energy then causes that phosphate group that broke off from the ATP to rejoin with the ADP, forming ATP again. So that was a big cycle. And the video gave a really good example of that. To show you how it works. Why is there a lot of energy in these phosphate groups? What kind of energy did we say was in between those phosphate groups? You remember? Yeah? Right, potential energy. Potential energy, remember, is energy that has the ability to do work in the future, stored energy. Okay, let's move on to carbohydrates. What three compounds did we say made up carbohydrates? This is on your concept map and also in your 3.2 notes. Right, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. As you saw, there's various amounts of each of those in different carbohydrates, but basically all carbohydrates are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. All right, who can give me an example of a disaccharide? One example we talked about today of a disaccharide. Alex? Sucrose, right. Remember we talked about condensation reactions or dehydration synthesis reactions last week. Reviewed a little bit today. Two monosaccharides, the monosaccharide being glucose plus fructose, that yields your disaccharide of sucrose. Two sugars put together, so also it's called a double sugar. Who can give me an example of a monosaccharide? Monosaccharides that made up the disaccharide. Okay, who's going to give me an example of a polysaccharide? We talked about 4 or 5 different examples today. Then? A starch, right. We said a starch is how plants store glucose. How do animals store glucose? What's the name of that carbohydrate? It's called starch in plants. What do we call how animals store glucose? It was one of the first ones that we talked about, one of the first polysaccharides. What? Right, glycogen. What did we say? Pretend this is a blade of grass. It's a red blade of grass. With the hydrogen bond in between it. What are these long branches of glucose called? It's what gives the plants and grass their structure. Remember. Josh? Hater fiber. What's another word that we use? Cellulose, right. So cellulose or fiber. Just FYI, if you ever hear the term high fiber diet, that means a diet that's high in cellulose, like wheat, which is a form of carbohydrate, or bran. Those are all fibers. And basically, cellulose or fiber is not really digested. It's kind of what goes in, comes out. I'm ready to go into detail. Okay, so remember, your pre-labs are due tomorrow. Pretty much be all done. And study for your quiz that's on Wednesday.